Washington State Senate Majority Leader Jamie Peterson, a Democrat from Seattle, is standing by comments he made last week to a Fox News reporter about children as young as 13 making their own healthcare decisions without parents' knowledge or consent. Here with more on this story is the Center Square's Washington reporter Carlene Johnson. Carlene, we've been following the conversation around Initiative 2081, commonly called a Parental Bill of Rights, and legislation that would roll back some of those provisions. But for the context of this conversation, could you remind us of kind of the reasoning behind this parental rights initiative?
Yeah, absolutely. Initiative 2081, which created the Parental Bill of Rights, was promoted by Let's Go Washington, the group that forwarded ultimately 7 different initiatives to lawmakers, 3 of which were adopted during the 2024 session, one of them being 2081. And the motivation behind it was, disenrollment in Washington public schools. A huge number of parents, even before the pandemic, but certainly during and post-pandemic, pulled their kids out of schools. And a lot of it had to do with the push in Washington public schools for not allowing parents to have a heck of a lot of say in some pretty important mental health care, physical health care decisions for their kids. There were many examples of kids as young as 13 years old seeing a counselor at school and saying, I'm confused about my gender. And then the school, even taking them outside of the building and seeing a medical provider or a counselor to talk about gender confusion and those kinds of issues. And when parents started finding out that, heck, my 13-year-old is, having to or being encouraged to make some of these critical potentially life-altering decisions without me as a parent having any input, knowledge, consent, that was the main motivation behind 2081. And it was signed by about 450,000 people. The petitions it went to lawmakers in 2024. They knew it was going to pass because it had such overwhelming support. And lawmakers ultimately approved it last year, only to come back in the current legislative session and say, there's some issues with it. We want to gut most of it.
So then what is Senator Peterson saying that's created so much pushback, and what is he saying now?
Yeah, this was crazy. So he had some comments to Fox News last week that went viral when they were reposted by some members of the GOP here in Washington. Fox News was asking him about the Parental Bill of Rights. He's Senate Majority Leader. So they were like, how do you feel about this? Why do you want to undo the Parental Bill of Rights that so many people supported, and even many members of his own party, the Democrats, supported it last year? His comments to Fox News that blew up were, and I'll read you the verbatim. He said, kids over 13 have the complete right to make their own decisions about their mental health care. That was February 5th, that TV interview. He said, parents don't have a right to have notice. They don't have a right to have consent about that. That went crazy, as you can imagine. Washington State has in statute that over the age of 13, a young person basically has bodily autonomy. If a girl at the age of 13 got pregnant, didn't want her parents to know, she can legally go and have an abortion or whatever, consult, without parents' knowledge or consent. And that's in statute. And that is the reason why Democrats are saying they need to come back and gut the Parental Bill of Rights and basically say, okay, since state statute conflicts, they contend, with the Parental Bill of Rights, we need to get those congruent. And in the meantime, we just need to undo this bill because there's confusion, they claim. On the other side, you have Republicans saying there's no confusion. Parents want to know what's going on with their kids and have the right to know, and the schools shouldn't be keeping secrets from them.
So where is this legislation at?
Yeah, so 5181, which is the Senate bill. There's a House bill as well that's a companion bill, HB 1296. But the Senate bill passed off the Senate floor last week. So it's now in the House. where Republicans who unanimously, oppose it are getting ready for a fight. And I spoke earlier this week with Representative Travis Couture, Republican from Allen, Washington. He sits on the Education Committee that initially heard the House version of this bill to undo the Parents' Bill of Rights. And he is hugely passionate about this. In fact, a couple of times we've spoken about it, he's been nearly moved to tears. And he said, we're not going down without a fight till our last breath on this one. So when this does come to the House floor, Representative Couture and many other members of the House GOP intend to not filibuster, but spend as much time as they can offering amendments to try and undo some of what they say is really damaging legislation. So that's going to be interesting. And as far as Rep. Couture is concerned, he told me, he said, this is the central issue of this entire legislative session. But as a lot of our, listeners and readers know from the center square, Republicans are in the deficit here, definitely the minority party in Olympia, and they may be powerless to stop this legislation. It may require another citizen initiative to restore the Parental Bill of Rights. It's going to be interesting to watch, but a lot of passions on both sides of this.
Well, Carlene, thank you for your insights on this story. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.